Well, welcome everyone. We're super excited to be on week 2 of our 8 weeks to Director Business Training for 2016, and today's topic is going to be one that we need and use all the time, one of the most important fundamentals, and we are very excited to focus on communication.
And this is our exciting team that we have put together. Barbara and I consider it really a great privilege to be working with these 5 women: Harper Guerrera, Lisa Anderson, Katie Odom, Ashley McDonald, and Becky Choate. And what's exciting is that these 5 women are all a part of the class, as I look at it, as the emerging top leaders in Shaklee. And every one of these gals has experienced significant growth in their Shaklee business. They're advancing in rank, they're earning trips, they're qualifying for car bonuses, they're developing directors in their teams, and they're helping them qualify for trips and qualify and for the car bonuses. So it's just great to have a team of people that are in the field doing what needs to be done, experiencing growth, and then are exceptionally willing to share all of what they're learning and knowing with all of us. So thanks, ladies. We are enjoying working with you.
And I can speak for everyone. We love it. It's one of my favorite things we get to do. So thank you. Thank you and Barb for setting this whole thing up and getting us rolling. We love it. So our objectives for today, to help everyone attending achieve the rank of director, to really get that strong launch and get your business up and rolling. Learn those basic communication skills that are going to fuel us and equip us throughout our whole life and working with people and helping other people work with people. Learning how to ask questions, listen for needs, learning how to talk less. This is my lifelong goal, and I spend great effort, and it serves me well because I was born talking and I was not born listening. So I have to, anyways, there you go. I'm working on that. And then also to understand how we can easily share with our friends. Our identity and our role as Shaklee leaders are so important. So we want to talk about that role and the role we play, because it puts us into a place, I think, of just freedom and allowing us to share from the heart and freely and not feel so pressured. So we're going to talk a lot about the role of the distributor, the concept of asking permission, which is beautiful and works perfectly for what we do, and then just to avoid those awful sales pitches, because it just puts us into a place that no one wants to be, and everyone on the planet, at least in America, is prepared to deal with a sales pitch, and that's to throw the wall up. So here we go.
Good point. So as we think about good communication skills, I think Lisa did a wonderful introduction with this, and it's so important to remember that Dr. Shaklee did a wonderful job really setting the foundation for our business, which is that our business is a relationship business, and that people are looking for that personal connection with you. You know, it's so interesting, but actually, Ashley McDonald and I have the opportunity to shadow a master for the day. We're going to be spending the day at Barb Lagoni's house. We're actually here right now. And on the way here, we took the train, and Ashley and I actually got in trouble for talking because apparently we were on the quiet train and we didn't know that. But, you know, what's interesting is I looked around on the train, and every single person was either looking down at their phone or reading or very much inward. They were not at all focused on other people. And what's so interesting is, as you think about our society now, we have so much bombarding us, whether it's online stuff, whether it's the TV going, whether it's radio ads. And what people are really looking for at the end of the day is that relationship, is the ability to connect with somebody. And so the first thing, as we think about our good communication skills, it's the importance of that phone-to-phone conversation, face-to-face conversation, which is ideal. We know the beauty of our business is that we can grow our business wherever, whenever, and that sometimes we don't get the benefit of being able to connect with somebody face-to-face. But I highly encourage you, if you have people that are local, if you have the ability to do an in-home event, this has been key to our business, because nothing can replace being able to sit down with somebody face-to-face and talk to them. And so as we think about the two key elements in our business, The first is learning how to introduce new people to the products and to develop a customer base. We are so concerned in Shaklee with coming across as a sales pitch. And you need to shift your focus into, instead of being so concerned about coming across as salesy or trying to sell something, instead I encourage you to think about being an advocate for somebody, which is really what Dr. Shaklee founded Shaklee on, was the basis that we need advocates for us, and that he wanted to reward people for personally being able to help other people. So instead of fearing that you're going to come across as salesy, instead I encourage you to instead think of yourself as an advocate for somebody, and as a coach, or as somebody that's going to be able to help somebody improve their health. And so the second thing of the the key elements would be learning how to introduce new people to the benefits of a Shaklee business. And these are all skills that can be learned. And so if you're new to Shaklee, the beauty of our training and the beauty of what we get to do is that everything is you can learn all these different skills. So as we think about the art of a meaningful conversation, it's really important to think about just being real and being honest with people. Sometimes we get stuck with what to say to somebody. What do we say to somebody when they stopped their auto ship? What do we say to somebody when we really want to talk to them about the business, but we just don't know the words? And I think Ashley does a really good job of this, because everything that she does, she's honest and she's real with people. So let people know if you're nervous to talk to them. Be upfront with people and say, you know what, I'm actually nervous to talk to you, but I just felt really led to share this business with you. And immediately when you're putting that up front with people, the walls come down, and all of a sudden they start to realize, well, why are you nervous to talk to me? And so just be honest with people. And so the next thing we're going to talk about, Lisa's going to talk a little bit about, are the easy phrases to learn when you're talking to people, which again comes back to listening and not pitching.
All right. So we like to really help people very quickly in their businesses understand that this is one of the greatest parts of our business and who we are, because there's a huge fear, and probably I think 99.9% of the distributors that we bring on board, they're just afraid of being pushy. They're afraid of people, that whole line, seeing them come down the street and wanting to go to the other side, that kind of thing. So this is a really important thing to learn right off the bat. If you really grasp this, you will never make someone feel pushy, and you will be so in tune and listening that they're going to want you to share with them their information. So we don't want to slip into that kind of pitching thing. When we talk, we want to make sure that we're listening, and we're creating that trust and relaxation and atmosphere where that wall comes down and they can really hear what we're saying, because we know what we're saying is so good and so valuable to them. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about. Is we're going to say learn how to not come at people and say, and then this, and you can do this, but just listen and say, you know what, would you be willing? And that's how you move into the permission. I think that this might be something that you might be interested in. So I love to help people hear words like explore and check out and evaluate, or would it be okay if we just sat down and I could show you this? Stuff like that. So it's really important that you recognize this, that you identify it, and know that you can build this business in a way, and I think I heard Joe say this a couple of years ago, that everyone around you is comfortable with who you're being, and you're comfortable with who you're being, and that allows people to really hear what you have to share, and then we don't ever have to worry about being pushy or having people feel that way. So it's really important to recognize the skill of not pushing the information, but getting involved so they want it from you. So.
And I think the thing too, Lisa, that you have said, and Katie has already said it, is just this idea of being authentic. And there is a lot of conversations that we probably encounter during the day where it is challenging maybe to have an authentic conversation. So when we demonstrate that to people, people do take notice. And so 3 key elements of having those kinds of authentic conversations would be asking questions and listening well. And I'm similar to Lisa. She talked about, she came out talking, and I have to really work on listening myself and asking more questions. And some of these statements, just tell me about whatever. Tell me what that's like. What else is happening? Tell me more. Those are all really good things. And I'm not sure who said it, but we've talked about this many times before on these trainings, that people do enjoy when people are curious about them and asking them questions. They feel acknowledged, they feel valuable, and so by us doing that, we are really not only discovering about them, but we're also making their day. And so what a great way for us to be able to do our business is that everybody we talk to, we make their day. And I think that's wonderful. Acknowledging people. Telling them that is so great that you already take a multivitamin. I'm so glad not everybody does that. And even if we know that they may not be getting much from Centrum, we want to acknowledge that they're doing something. They're conscious about their health in some way. And then sharing the reasons why you're reaching out to them. What was it that made you think of them? And later in this webinar, Ashley has some really nice examples of how she does that and some ways to invite people. So anyway, and all these three elements can be used in inviting and handling questions and concerns.
Great. So as we think about the tell me about, this is a great way to begin a conversation. So you meet somebody for the first time and you ask them, tell me about what you do, or you are doing a health consultation with somebody and you don't really know where to start with them because they have a laundry list of health concerns. Just begin by saying, tell me about what's going on. Tell me about what you have for breakfast. Tell me about what you have for lunch. Tell me about what you have for dinner. Walking them through their diet. I think it's so important in Shaklee that we really encompass not just the supplements, but also the diet, because we know that these go hand in hand with one another. And people want to be educated more on how to feel better and what to eat. And it's interesting, but every time I do a three-way call or every time I do a health consultation with people, you'll be amazed. I think sometimes it gets second nature with us when we're in Shaklee to eat healthy, but the majority of people don't eat the way that we do. And that's a key piece to helping people to feel better. So walking them through what do you have for breakfast, what do you have for lunch, tell me about your stress level, tell me about your energy level, and by asking those questions, the door opens up to learning more about them, which is really important because we want to help people and we want to get and make the best plan for them. And in order to make the best plan for them, we need to understand where to start with people. And listen carefully for words that indicate a need or an interest. It's really interesting, but you really can't have a conversation with people nowadays where either health doesn't come up, the need for community, or a financial concern. Most of the time in a conversation, there can be one of those three things that tend to come up when you're talking to other people. So it's just a matter of being able to listen for those needs. And what happens when we're talking to people is we move people from their heads to their hearts, and we get them from thinking, from their thinking to their emotions, which I think is really important.
So good, Katie, and I love how you talk about the head to the heart thing, and that leads right into we want to tell them why we thought of them, why did we want to invite them. And what's fascinating to me is invariably if I have through a conversation discovered a need that I thought was product-based and there was a health need of some kind, just by you kind of starting the process with them, starting your appointment with them, a lot of times you'll find out they have other needs, just like the ones that Katie just mentioned. Maybe they want more time with their family. Maybe they want more income. Maybe they really need another car, but they don't have enough for a car payment. We have so many things at our fingertips to be able to offer to people, and so when we connect with them, we want to tell them why you wanted to talk to them. And there's some beautiful examples here. I'm calling because I had some serious health issues for several years, and I wanted to share with you what my experience was, and maybe this would be something for you or someone you might know. Or I just returned from the Shaklee Global Conference, and I thought of you the whole time because of this. Or we were reading an article, or I'm so grateful I've learned about prevention and what it's meant for my family. So it's a beautiful way to be able to talk to people and be able to tell them why. And they like that. I mean, if someone calls and says, I thought of you when I was listening to this, I mean, it does touch you personally. And we have had this quote so many times, but we need to just post this on our bathroom mirror. People don't buy what you sell, they buy why you sell it. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And it's just such a good reminder. It is our why.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
And as we think about learning and figuring out what people are interested in and getting to the core of people, it's important to acknowledge people. And we have a couple of different examples of how you can acknowledge people, but if there's one thing that everybody enjoys, it's being encouraged, or it's being praised, or it's being letting people know that what they're doing is as good as they know. For example, you don't want to ever make people feel bad for what they think is good in their mind. So for example, if somebody's taking a multivitamin from, let's just say, GNC or another company, that's probably the best that they know of. And it's our job to acknowledge them and to say something like, I'm so glad that you see the importance in supplementing, especially when we see how our food is just not made the same way as it once was, and our soil is not as nutrient rich. But recently, in the past couple of years, I've really learned a lot about supplements. And one thing that I've learned is that the FDA doesn't regulate supplements at all. I've also learned that a lot of companies can put a lot of harmful things in their supplements. So one reason that I trust Shaklee, and then going into a little bit of why I trust Shaklee. So instead of saying, you know what, your vitamin is not good. And it's so hard because sometimes we just want to say that to other people because we know it's true. But, just meeting them where they're at. And I think Barb does a really good job with this. And I've seen this demonstrated many times when we have a three-way call. And people often will say, I am on a probiotic actually. And acknowledging them and saying, I am so glad that you see the importance of taking a probiotic. Let me tell you a little bit about what makes Shaklee's probiotic unique. We talk about the history of the probiotic. We talk about how it's triple encapsulated. And I will tell you, I've done this many times, especially when it relates to the probiotic, because that's an easy one. And people say, oh, that makes sense about our stomach acid dissolving the probiotic too quickly and it not making it down to the gut. And immediately they learn and they're educated on why ours is unique. So you can acknowledge people, even when it comes to the business. I think this is an easy one. Just tell people and acknowledge them and say, you know what, you've been on my mind lately because I really think that you would do really well in Shaklee. You are a teacher. You love to help other people. You're really passionate about health and wellness. And this is why I think I would love to see you do Shaklee with me. And so acknowledging where people are at. And even after the fact. So for example, you're on a play date with somebody and somebody talks about their daughter having really bad asthma. And you might just say something like, you know what, that's so interesting. You remind me a lot of one of my friends, Amber, whose daughter had really bad asthma. Can I share with you a little bit about what has helped her? And the majority of people will say yes, which is a lot of what the permission marketing that Ashley will get into a little bit later. But and so I'm sharing a story with them, which I think is really important, especially with the acknowledging piece, because then it takes down the barrier of them feeling like whatever they're doing isn't the best. Instead, you're just sharing a story of how Shaklee has helped another person.
Some of you are familiar with a book called Go Pro by Eric Worre. And it's quite nice, and he has a very nice way of kind of framing the work that we do and the role that we play. And he said that what we want to be in our business, our relationship with people, is more like a consultant. It can be a business consultant or nutritional consultant, and he referred to the people who use the other approach as sharks. And so in this consulting approach, he says, the initial objective of successful leaders is about educating prospective customers and business partners on what they have to offer. They see themselves as educating folks, as bringing information, and then allowing people to make the decision that they want to make. And so those prospects then decide if this is something that would be right for them or not. And I think Ashley will be talking about this in a minute, but then, if the answer isn't, right now, or I'm not sure it's for me, she has this great close about, well, if if it ever your circumstances change or you think it might be, my door is always open. It's a great close to that. So instead of acting like sharks, he says, the professionals were more like coaches or consultants. They built relationships and then they offered common sense solutions to people's problems. Who wouldn't like that? And this whole session today about communication skills, we put right up front in our training. And the reason we do that is that, we talked last week about kind of getting started, the mechanics of our business, but now we're talking about talking to people. Now, this is really the essence of our business. And these wonderful ideas that everyone is sharing this morning are, when we nail these down, I am telling you, it makes us so effective in our businesses. It is, and it improves our communication with everybody, not just our customers and not just our business associates, but our families, our friends, everyone. So, Becky, let me go to the next slide for you, and you have a nice way that you like to frame this when you're talking to people.
And I use this phrase actually for products or for business, that I just tell them right up front, I feel like it's my job to provide you the information and it's your job to decide what you want to do with it. And just an example off of what Barb was just saying, there are lots of times when I am talking about someone's health and we're trying to decide which supplements would be best for them. I just had this come up the other day where they were looking for anti-inflammatories, and we talked about alfalfa and omega. And the omega was going to do the same thing that they needed the alfalfa to do, but it would also do some other benefits for what they had going on. And so I said, you know what? I said, actually, let's we had a few other products besides the omega, but I said, let's start with this and then just do the omega, and we'll try that for a month, and then we'll see if you need the additional benefit of the alfalfa. And so when we can say that, so I wasn't looking for a sale, I wasn't looking to, yes, how many products do you want to purchase? We actually are thinking about them. Then I think it just really just shows your credibility, that you really are being a consultant and an advocate for them and helping them decide what is going to be best for their regimen.
And I just want to jump in, Becky, because I think there's something so smart there, and it goes back to that setting that posture and that stage of not being pushy, but drawing them. When you say this, when you make this statement, what you're allowing them to do is say, you can relax and just listen because I am not going to choose for you. And it's like almost we are the anti-Encyclopedia Man salespeople, right? We are not going to trick you into buying. We're not going to do a heavy-handed sale. You get to decide. I think it just allows people to let their ears open up and hear the value of what you're saying, which is what we want, because we want lifelong members, right? So this is a beautiful way to frame that whole interaction of not pushing. I love it. Very good.
And I think another thing, too, to remember that Roger actually leads a lot with when he's talking to people about Shaklee is the fact that Shaklee is 100% satisfaction for all of their products. So recently somebody asked him, well, what do you do when you say, somebody says to you, well, I feel good. I don't know if I feel great. And he challenged them and he said, well, what if you could feel better? And if you didn't feel better in 30 days, then you could get your money back. And that person thought, and it made a difference with them. And I think we really need to be confident in our products when we're talking to people. And I also think that it's good to lead with the fact that we have 100% satisfaction, because not every company, in fact, the majority of companies do not have that satisfaction guarantee because they don't have the confidence that Shaklee can stand behind with their products.
Very good.
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that ultimately what we're moving into here is really understanding how to be human. And I know that sounds a little crazy to say, but I will tell my team and everybody that I train that building a business like this can be hard. I'm not going to lie about that at all. But it's very, very simple. And it takes being human and being authentic and creating relationships. And that's a lot of what we're talking about. So one of the key elements that I practice myself and I try to train my team is permission marketing. I do not send a single thing to anybody until they give me permission to do so. And the reason why I do that is because, well, for one, I will say I am a huge advocate of anybody that is willing to start their own business and build an MLM business themselves. And so I try to buy any of my products that I can, whether it's essential oils or makeup or, stuff that Shaklee does not have from home-based businesses. But through doing that, I have learned a lot about what I don't like, sad to say. But a lot of, I will contact somebody and let them know I have interest, and it's just 15 different responses and videos and articles, and it's so overwhelming. And so I learned really quickly, like, that's just not what I want to be. And so a lot of what we're focusing on is not being salesy, and this is a big way to not be that. Asking permission differentiates us from people that are salespeople, because rather than just sending them stuff, we're going to ask questions like, hey, if I were to shoot you a video that I just watched that really made me think of you, would you be interested in checking it out? And with everything, whether it's inviting somebody to an event, I don't even send invites in the mail unless I ask somebody if they're willing to receive one. And a big reason for this, too, is that it continues the conversation with somebody in a way that it does not if you send it without asking. So being bombarded with information and invitations and emails and all that kind of stuff is a big, big turnoff. Nobody wants to do that. So one of the things that I just did a training for Harper and Katie the other day, and I'm sure they were kind of like, whoa, because one of the things that I said was just, if at ever you're feeling nervous or you're overthinking what you might say or how you're going to talk to somebody, stop, shut up, and now be honest. So whether it's, hey, you're on my chicken list. I'm terrified to talk to you. Would it be okay if I shared Shaklee with you? Just kind of getting it out there, like Katie had mentioned on. Being honest is going to be the most rewarding thing for you and all the people that you talk to. So I don't know if this is going to be for you or not, but I want to give you the opportunity to make that decision on your own, kind of like Becky was just talking about. Would it be okay to send you some information on the company I've just started, or would you be interested in hearing more about Shaklee or the products that have helped our family so much? Just a really beautiful way of reaching out to people. So the next piece, now you can move forward. The next piece is, I think that permission marketing is really intertwined into everything that we do, but something that a lot of people are fearful of or experience often is, questions, concerns, objections, kind of stuff that you feel, I'm a little overwhelmed, I wasn't expecting this, I just wanted to tell them, here's Shaklee, and everyone's just going to order a million things. But that doesn't happen. And so there are some tips and objectives to handling questions. And the first one is validating. So just like Katie was mentioning, when somebody mentions that they're already using products or they're already really happy with what they're using, or in fact, I've had people that don't use anything but just say, I'm just really happy in my life. Being able to validate that, compliment them on their ability to recognize health or to be happy in their lives, just like it says here, so glad you found some products that you like, so impressed at how much you care about reading labels, how much effort you take in feeding your family well, and really just validating who they are and what they've done. This is going to start that connection process. So step 2 is actually connecting, okay? Look for ideas, values, interests that you might have in common. So I'm just learning about supplementation myself, what a difference it has made, or I've been working on ways to get vegetables into our family and especially our kids, or I'm just starting a home business myself. So allowing the connection to take place where you're validating, you're saying, I get you, I think you're great, I think what you're doing is wonderful, and also I know that and I can say that because I feel that way too, so we're kind of on the same wavelength. So number 3 we'll move on to is ask questions to discover needs. So tell me about what it is that you are taking. Tell me about what it is that you love so much about the way that you feel now. What is it that you're doing? Whether it's somebody saying, well, gosh, I just go on a ton of runs, or, I'm just really good at being active. Again, you can kind of go through these things and they don't have to be in this order and you don't have to just hit it once. You can validate again. Oh, that's amazing. I picked up running for a time and it really changed my life. Just asking questions to get to know them. What do you love about this? What might you change about this? And really getting into that conversation. And again, that's where some of that permission marketing is going to come in, where if they say, oh my gosh, I just love running, and you say, I'm a runner as well. However, I had some troubles with my knees along the way, and so I was so grateful for Shaklee because I found some solutions for that. would it be okay if I shared, or would you like to hear more about that, or have you ever had any knee problems, or something to really get Shaklee in the conversation. And a little tip that I will say as well is that something that I tell my entire team, and I keep record of myself, is you really want to get Shaklee in front of somebody about 5 to 7 times. And you can do that in one conversation, and it doesn't have to be salesy, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can just be having a conversation where you throw in, I mean, gosh, I'm sure everybody on this phone probably uses as much Shaklee as I do, but I'm pretty much using it 24/7 in every way of my home and what I'm doing, and so I can throw it in pretty naturally. You know, oh gosh, I used Basic H for that. Oh my goodness, I just took my probiotic, or just, you know, pulling your vitamins out when you're having the conversation. But key being that you're being honest, you're being vulnerable, you're asking questions before giving anybody any information. You're building a connection with somebody, and at the end of the day, everybody who has started a Shaklee business, I just have this firm belief, everybody who started a Shaklee business is freaking awesome. And so you just got to tap into your freaking awesomeness so that you can be the person that you're meant to be in all these circumstances that oftentimes we get a little bit nervous about being ourselves. But you, who you are at your core, who you've always been, the reason why you're attracted to being a Shaklee person, a Shaklee family member, is because you are awesome. So just tap into who you are, ask questions, get to know people, and make sure you get Shaklee out there at least 5 to 7 times.
Ashley, that was so beautifully done. I just want to add one comment that when you're saying all that, it is all about being fully present. Like, you are totally being present, you're totally being yourself. And what I love about what we do in our businesses is this all pours out into our personal life. So are we being fully present with our husbands or our wives? Are we being fully present with our children? I mean, all these skills can totally benefit every single relationship that we have. So that's such a nice, wonderful, wonderful review, Ashley. Thank you.
I think one thing that I would add, too, is that oftentimes we get a little overworked with how we're going to talk to people that we know. And one thing that I'll say is that so much beauty happens in just being intentional and mindful with people you don't know, because more often than not, the people that we know, they already know the things that we started and quit, or the things that we kind of go up and down with. But strangers think we're amazing, right? And we can be so amazing to them. But so often we lose these opportunities because we're not being mindful. And so this is totally a side note, but whenever I go into any place where I'm doing anything, I like to have a little conversation with myself prior to walking in somewhere, where I create an objective. And that objective may be, I want to connect with 2 people in this coffee shop. And if I don't do that, I wouldn't do it. You know, we just kind of go through our day. But I have just been outstandingly surprised by how many times when I say, I just want to connect to one person, I actually go in the coffee shop and I instantly find somebody that I want to connect with. Like, my heart just pulls to somebody. And then that relationship builds very organically, because my objective is not to sell Shaklee to 3 people in the coffee shop. My objective is to make 3 friends in the coffee shop. And that's when I get to be my real me. And Shaklee comes out naturally because I am Shaklee. And so I think that mindfulness and that intentionality is really key in every situation that we're in.
Excellent.
This is amazing, and I love training with all of you, because there's so much similarities, and I mean, basically, Becky, what you said was exactly what I was going to say, and so many things that I love sharing with all of you have already been said, and it is just so encouraging and amazing to hear all these different people and how they handle these situations, and how it sounds different, but it's very similar. And so the one thing that I want to encourage you in is, as we're talking about all of these things, is all of these are tips that help you in remembering not to fire hose people. I know when I first started that I was just so excited about how I could help people. I mean, genuinely, like, I wanted to be honest. I wanted to share information. And honestly, I just wanted to tell them all about everything that I had learned so that they could have the same success as I did. And I think that just listening and validating and remembering all of these very important pieces of communication is what is going to help you make that connection. And everybody has shared so many wonderful examples that are very powerful, but that being honest and making that, stopping yourself and listening and asking questions really does. I love what Ashley said about differentiating us. asking permission, listening to what's going on instead of just pouncing on people with what you have to offer, even when you're excited. One way that I have found is a great way to practice this is working at a vendor fair. I don't do a lot of vendor fairs, but I have found that a great place is, you're standing there at a booth and people are coming to you sometimes because they have to. It's if it's a corporate fair, but you have this opportunity to surprise them because every other booth they go to, people start by saying, okay, this is what I have for you, and this is why it's great. But you have the opportunity to say, who are you? What's your story? And when you've asked them, you found out who they are and what their story is and what their connection is, and then you have an opportunity to have a valuable conversation with them, what their needs are. And so in the midst of so many things on this slide here, these are just more great examples of asking enough questions. And then when you do have the opportunity to speak, very thoughtfully validating and asking permission to speak with them. But this is just, I so appreciate Ashley and Katie and Becky and Lisa, all the things that you have shared today. They're just fabulous.
Feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt that way too. Here's what I found is a very standard technique that is often used. But just think about that, what I just said, in connection with what you've currently just been hearing from the gals. When someone expresses hesitation or reluctance to look at the business, or they bring up an issue about the products, and many times we can understand how they are feeling or why they might be skeptical, but we want to think about how do I say this so I am not building a wall? And personally, if you're explaining, just think about yourself. If you're telling someone about something that's going on in your life or some issue that you've had, and they say to you, oh, I know how you feel. Right away, and for me anyway, the walls go up and I'm like, how do you know how I feel? No, you don't. You can't. You're not in my shoes. This is, and even if they do or have some experience with that, we want to be careful that, again, that we're building connections like we've been talking about for the entire webinar. So you might say to someone, I think I can understand how you feel. Or you might say, I'm not sure I know exactly what you're telling me about how you feel. Can you tell me a little more about that? Whatever we can do to, and I think Ashley just said this, whatever we can do to keep the conversation going is what we want to do. So we want to try to soften it a little bit. I can remember feeling that way too in a similar situation, or, I've had some feelings like that you're sharing with me. It's, again, softening it, being respectful. We don't want to be mechanical. I felt that way too. It's like, oh, well, all right. And then you go on to say, well, what happened to me, or what I found was, or to even say, could I share with you what I learned, or could I share with you what helped me, or could I share with you what I found out? Again, like Ashley's saying, it's permission marketing. So it's just about, we don't want to say things in such a way with people that we're putting up walls and we think we might be connecting with them. Just be very mindful of being respectful and making that personal connection with people.
Excellent. Great.
Hope that helps.
Absolutely, yeah. So here's some examples of honest conversations that you can have. I had a training locally in Colorado, and we put some of these up on the screen for an inviting blitz that we had during the training, and it was really, really great. But here are just some examples. Hey, I'm at this event for my business, and you have come to mind several different times. Your love for health and fitness just totally resonates with everything I'm hearing, and I would love to get your opinion on some things. Let's grab a coffee. Now, here's the key. I am free after 3, Tuesday and Thursday. What works for you? Coming from a therapist, psychologically, we want to provide people with options rather than ask what works for you point blank. And so there's something with people feeling a little bit more obligated to respond to you when you're making it very concrete to them that this is going to happen. And so always provide. I tell my team, when you're trying to set up a meeting, always provide 2 options. So have your calendar out, be ready to provide 2. They might respond, those times don't work. So you don't say, okay, what does? You respond with, oh gosh, no problem. I'm also free, blank and blank. What works for you? So this next example, so I have to admit something to you. This is that being super brutally honest. I have to admit something to you. You are on my chicken list. I honestly think it's because I really value your opinion and I look up to you as a person. Anyhow, I'm sitting at this event and it just hits me that I can't keep this to myself anymore. I don't know if this will interest you or not, but I would kick myself. That's one of my favorite phrases. I would kick myself for not letting you be the one to decide. Let's grab a coffee. Again, I'm free and giving 2 options. When in doubt, tell the truth. Their guard goes down instantly. I'm sorry, but if somebody contacted me and was like, I'm terrified to talk to you, my response would most definitely not be, okay, see ya. I mean, my heart would just feel for them, and I think that's the honest to God truth is when we just tell somebody, I don't know why, but I just think I have to talk to you about this, and I want you to make the decision. I had to do this with a lot of my really close friends who I'd avoided for a long time. It wasn't very comfortable, but everybody turned around like, why in the world am I on your chicken list? So it's a good thing. So the next one is a couple more examples. Hi, blank, so kind of filling in their name. I just watched this amazing webinar, and you came to mind several times. It's all about women's health and talks about some of the same topics we were just discussing. So this kind of validates that connection that you recently had. This may or may not interest you, but I thought I'd reach out and see if you'd be interested in watching it, ? Permission. I've had a lot of people where they watch a webinar and it does make them think of somebody and they just go ahead and send it to them. This made me think of you. While that's very thoughtful and I think brilliant in many ways, we want to let them tell us. We want to let them ask us. And so we have to figure out how to make that happen. This next example, hey friend, I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but I recently embarked on a new business adventure that I am super excited about. I have decided to build my own wellness business due to my love and passion for health and nutrition. I would love to share more about this new venture with you and get your opinions on it all. I am so nervous excited. Can we grab a coffee or phone date? I am free after blank. So those are the options again. So we actually had everybody in the team. There was about 20 of us in the team. At this training that we did, we had, everyone do 5 contacts, and we had a business builder sign up and 7 new members throughout the team because of just literally just using one or all of these examples that we provided. And I just think that they're really human. I mean, I don't know about all of y'all that are listening, but I just think those are really human examples. It's not a sales pitch. It's just like an honest, I'm doing something that I'm really excited about, or I watched this thing and I think you would love it. Just really, I believe that whatever you put out into the world is what you're going to get back at you. So just being a super honest, lovable person, and you'll get the honest, lovable people back.
Go
ahead, Joe.
Just the way that you're phrasing all of this, Ashley, too, it's sort of like, if you got home from going to Target and you picked up the phone and called a friend and you just said, oh, hey, I got to tell you about something. I was just at Target and they have this great, promotion on blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The phraseology here is the languaging is very normal, very ordinary, very much like what we would do in another, situation.
Totally. And that's kind of what I meant about, this business can be hard in the sense that it's not very fun to have people tell you no, and it can be sometimes nerve-wracking to talk to a ton of people every single day, but ultimately it's very, very simple, and there's not this trick question that you have to figure out and get people to answer. Yes. You just have to be you.
And the other thing I love, Ashley, about giving them the 2 choices right then is that it cuts down on the back and forth. Mm-hmm. Like if they call back or text back or however this is being communicated on the phone, they can tell you right then, actually 4 p.m. on Tuesday does work for me, instead of you wanted that day, okay, let me check my calendar. It just makes it easier for them. And I think anytime we can make it easy on their end by having information up front just makes everything easier.
Totally.
And I found,
go ahead.
I found even what Becky was just saying on a logistical level, and I love hearing from you, Ashley, because sometimes you and your background, there is a method to the things that I do. But one thing that I've noticed is that for me, when this happens to me, when someone reaches out to me, even about something as simple as a play date, like, let's have a play date sometime. And I'm on my phone, you know, waiting in the pickup line, and I look at my phone and they have this message, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. But I have no idea when I'm free or when she's free.
Right.
But if she said to me, hey, let's have a play date. Could you come over on Tuesday morning? I can think in my head, Tuesday. Oh, I'm free Tuesday. Yes, I can.
Right.
And I feel like in our business, there's so many times where people don't respond to our texts and they don't respond to our Facebook message, not because they don't want to, but because we put out this huge open-ended answer that they don't have the mind space to think about at the moment. But if we give them something specific to choose from, it's way easier to wrap your mind, oh, yeah, I do have 20 minutes on Thursday at 3 o'clock or whatever it is to talk.
It's
Good
totally
point.
psychological. And one thing I will add that you'll see back on those examples if you use them for yourself is that you'll notice that it's I have this kind of rule of thumb when I'm messaging someone as opposed to having a conversation on the phone. When I'm messaging somebody, Facebook or text message, I have a 3 to 4 sentences end with a question mark. Always. No more than 3 to 4 sentences and always end with a question mark. Back to that
you said that's
psychological
an email too. I think that's important that you're talking about
Yes.
emails too. I loved that.
Totally, because when we think like this, a lot of people, I mean, you were saying, Harper, about kind of like fire hosing people, which is totally normal. We've all been there. We've all done it. And so when I have to follow my own rules and I have to keep it in 3 or 4 sentences, I get really good at cutting out the junk. Right? And just getting to the point. And people, there is some truth behind the fact that if somebody sees a message that's like an entire page long, they're probably not even going to read it, because attention span wise with humans, if we're being honest, the first 2 sentences, whether you're talking in person or you're writing them something, they're in tune. The second 2, they're already doing something else, and the last 2, they didn't even hear. So don't even worry about that. So that's why I say 3 to 4 sentences and end with a question mark. If you have a question mark and then you have a sentence, psychologically people are not feeling obligated to answer your question. So make sure you end. There's something very specific about the question mark and allowing people to see that, because they're going to feel obligated to answer you.
Well, and I think that question mark and what you're saying is so important, even in your conversations that you have with people face to face, because that's what happens when we fire hose people. We don't leave them anything to say, unless, you know, I mean, sometimes maybe they're really excited about it, but most of the time they just, oh, well, that was a lot of information. I don't know how to digest that. But if we are having that, we're creating in our, what you're saying, in messages and in emails, but also in our back and forth, let them ask us. And I think that as we're talking about even talking to someone in person, that's something that's really important, is that it needs to be a back and forth. We don't want to give them so much information that they don't have anything to say. We want to ask them a lot of questions. Even if we give them a piece of information, we want to end that with a question. Or, and you talked about that, you do this too, Ashley, giving them just a little bit, because then we want them to ask for more. And I love where you say, he said, oh, yeah, Shackley saved my life. And people say to you, what? It saved your life? Tell me about that. And then they're asking for more information. And so I think that is a key piece of all of these conversations, is that letting them ask us and that engaging in the conversation. And I think what you're saying about ending with a question is so important. But when we're talking about the business, I think that's, we gave a lot of examples of when you're having a conversation about products with people, but this is also so true when we're talking about the business. You may hear from someone, I'm thinking about getting a new job. And again, it's so easy to fire hose someone with, oh my goodness, let me tell you all about the great things about the Shackley opportunity. It's this and this and this. And it can be very easy, but it's to stop and to think about them and start asking them questions. The truth is, it may or may not be for them, but asking them questions. Tell me about that. What's going on? Well, why did you go to that job in the first place? What is it that you like about it? What are the things that you're looking for? And if you find a connection, you can continue that conversation saying, you know, I love what I do because I wanted the same things that you're mentioning and that you're looking for. And then they may say, well, what is it that you do? Or they may know and they say, really, that's true about your job? You may find, you know, they may have a story that does not connect with your story, but still connects with Shackley. And you may say, you know, I have a colleague who had the same struggle. She was a nurse, but the hours are becoming difficult, but she wanted something that was, that she was taking care of people and using those skills. I would love to share more of her story with you. things like that, and leaving, listening and asking and finding out, because we could share an example of something with them that doesn't relate to them at all. We need to know who they are, and we need to validate the things about what they love and their passions that are exciting. In the same way that we're doing when we're talking about products and health issues, is that when you hear someone like they really want to care about people, or, they want to take care of people, they want to help people, that is so awesome. That is such an amazing thing, that you have a heart for others and that you want to and put that into part of your career. The same examples as we're talking about the business, but being able to ask those questions.
Good, so good, Harper. Mm-hmm.
And as we think about these conversations, it's so important to go back and remember to slow down and listen. The most basic and powerful way to connect with another person is to listen. And also, I think when we're talking to somebody, I've shared this before in webinars, but the number one thing people want to hear is actually their name. So even just validating by just saying, Ashley, what's going on in your life? And starting with their name, just really show what they're saying. And then when they're speaking, repeating back what they just told you. So if somebody said, oh, you know what? My kids have been sick since Christmas. They just cannot get over. I'm just so frustrated. I'm not sleeping at night. It's just been really tough. Well, tell me about that. Like, what have you tried to help them get better? And do you see how I asked a question then back? But I wouldn't have known that unless I had asked that person, how are you doing? How's your family? And oftentimes when we're slowing down and listening, we identify those needs that we talked about, which I think is so important, because people have needs all around us. It's just sometimes it's hard to slow down and it's hard to listen. And so really bringing the conversation back to them, I think, is really important. And, it's interesting, but when I really slow down and listen to other people, I begin to recognize that a lot of people have a need to do Shaklee, have a need to have a Shaklee business, because I start identifying that they want freedom in their life, or I start identifying that they want flexibility in their life, or I start realizing that they don't have a job that they are passionate about and that they love, or all of a sudden they are so concerned about trying to pay for their son or daughter's college tuition. But again, I won't recognize that and I won't know that until I begin to ask questions.
So true. Mm-hmm.
Very good. And I think basically what you're saying there, Katie, is we're just making it about them and not about us, right? We don't have our own agenda. When we walk out the door, we set our goals, our plans, and we design a great track to run on to create this wonderful Shaklee thing. But when we walk out the door, it's about them. And we know we have something great for them. So that's beautiful. Couple more tips. Some of these have been covered, but just things to think about. Speak clearly in a language that is easy to understand. An example of this, I came from the medical background, and so I would go into medical speak, and it was very impressive, and it meant nothing to people. So I had to learn very quickly to not be impressive, but to be real to them. I could certainly go to a group of colleagues and talk medical speak again, and it would be real to them. But it's just important to think about that, who you're talking with. That's actually very important when you're speaking about the business as well. Don't go talking about MDO and upline and this line and that. Yeah. You got to talk real with them, and they don't know what the heck a PGV and an OV is, right? So just speak their language and speak clearly. And just be aware, don't second guess yourself too much, but just be aware this is part of us just getting better and wanting to be better at what we do so that we can better help people, right? Body language is an interesting one. I never thought about it too much until I heard a pretty good talk a couple years ago, and I started thinking about it in my presentations. And I really like to be pretty casual, so you just want to kind of be open, and you certainly don't want to be invade space. Don't be spitting on their face, but you don't want to be so far away that they're not feeling an interaction, a connection. So think about your body language, crossing your legs, folding your arms, just be open. Facial expressions, the best tip I've ever heard about presenting was just to do it in front of the mirror and smile occasionally, It's important, and it helps people know that we're present, just like it's been shared through this great training, and that we're actually in that moment. Of course, listening, making eye contact. These 4, 5, and 6 are really important for me because my brain tends to be on to the next 3 things I need to do after that conversation. So I very quickly can be moving on the rest of my day. I think maybe I could be a little ADD. I don't know, but I get very impatient is what I'm saying. So by getting some skills of listening and eye contacting and just trying to be, it allows me to not rush. Like Katie was saying, I don't want to rush through this. Great things are going to be exchanged, and I cannot rush on to the next, 5 points I want to cross off my list. So think about just little things, distracting gestures. Sometimes, these are just things we just want to pay attention to. Sound and pace of your voice. This is an interesting one. So just for me, again, it's trying to not talk too fast. But I think one of the best things we can do, and I found that this has served me well in presenting with a group, doing a one-on-one, or just talking with a friend, when I talk about Shaklee, I make sure I put a little passion into it. And sometimes we don't even have to try. I mean, many times we don't. But after you've been in a lot of years, sometimes you kind of say the same things over and over. And so you want to make sure I just bring up the volume a tiny bit, the enthusiasm a tiny bit, and I just make sure that they know that what I'm saying really matters to me, and I make sure I put some passion into it. So there's almost always a place when I'm doing a one-on-one where I start to get really excited about what this could do for them, and I let them see it. I mean, I don't go all crazy on them, but I let them see it. I let them see my passion. So that's part of kind of that sound and pace. Just be aware. Posture, sitting or standing, I think this, when you're with a one-on-one, just be you. But if you're doing a presentation, you want to kind of just be thinking about that. And then the handshake, the commanding handshake, go figure. That makes such a big impression on people, but it really does. And if you think about it, I happened to be with a builder yesterday, and we went to 4 different gyms that we had appointments for her to share our new SWIP program with. And, every single one of these gym owners really shook my hand. I was like, holy cow, you guys are hurting me. But I remembered it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so these are little things, but they're things that if you just pull them into your awareness, you'd be surprised at how effective they are. So we just know that communication is meant to be practiced. Go ahead.
I was going to just add one thing, Lisa, such a good rundown. And when you think about just the way our society is changing, and several of you that are in a younger crowd on this call, so many of your interactions, and mine are becoming more so too, just because the world is becoming more technology-based, is Facebook message, texting, or whatever, where you take out about 3/4 of this list if you aren't in person or on the phone. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like, so here's what I wanted to say. I feel like if you can be a really good communicator in those types of technology places, but that could be harder for the average person. So if you feel like you're in your business and things aren't moving as well, and your primary methods are word-based, as in either email, text, or message, then do stretch yourself to go out of that into more face-to-face and on the phone. Mm-hmm. And I feel like face-to-face is always your best bet, and then phone would be number 2. And when you were talking, Lisa, about the power of the smile, can you guys tell right now that I'm smiling? I mean, people can tell on the phone that when you're smiling or not. And so it's really contagious. And so that could be the little missing link if you feel like you're stuck with some of your communication.
Very good.
I love that. I think that is so true, Becky, and I just think that is something that I say this a lot, but I know that in our generation it's a little harder because we are so used to texting. We are so used to emailing people, but there are so many times, and my team members know this, because when they send me a text about certain things, I will say to them, and Harper taught me this, let's chat. When is a good time to talk? Because I also have recognized when you get on the phone, you're also saving time. I have done this, and there are times when I can't get on the phone physically, but when you'll notice that when you text back and forth and you text back and forth and you text back and forth, it takes a lot of time. Or you can hop on the phone. I did this with one of my team members the other day. She asked me a question, and it was complicated to text back, so I said, can you chat in 5 minutes? We talked for about 15 minutes, and in that matter of 15 minutes, I asked her a lot of different questions, and through those questions, we started strategizing, and it opened up all these other windows. And I think that's so true when we get on the phone, that a lot of times we try and text, and even with the business, there's this ongoing joke about texting the business. But I mean, it's so true. You cannot text or email the business. You have to get it off of Facebook, off of email, and onto the phone. And I also think as we think about all of these conversations and communication skills, if you are nervous to talk to people, the easiest thing you can do is you can do a 3-way call with your upline. That is how all of us have learned how to have these communication skills. I have done countless 3-way calls, and to this day I still do 3-way calls because I still have things that I need to learn. But what I learned when I did 3-way calls was my uplines, as smart and as intelligent as they all are, the thing that makes them so successful is that they have learned to ask good questions, and that is something that we're all capable of doing. So if all of this makes you very nervous, schedule 3-way calls with your upline and with your team members. And when you're inviting people, you can just say, hey, I'd love for you to connect with one of my teammates, Harper. She has helped a lot of other moms who've had kids with eczema, and so I would just love for you to be able to talk to her, and then I can learn as well. And 3 times, like almost every single time, people are open to doing a 3-way call, especially when they know that it can help teach you as well. So there's also a great quote, John Maxwell, ask yourself, what can I do with what I know so I can help people and add value to their lives? And I just think that's so true, that we are always constantly learning in Shaklee and constantly educating ourselves and our team and becoming better.
One of my favorite quotes about that I really resonate with, and I learned this from my uplines, and my Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this is so powerful. I think it's one reason why being on the phone and in person makes such a difference, because you can have the most eloquently thought out text, but people can't know how you feel. They cannot hear in your voice how much you are validating them and how much you are affirming them and how much passion you have to care for them. They can't hear those things. And I think that when we're talking about all these conversation pieces, what I have found too is that when we have these kind of conversations, when we're asking people questions, when we're acknowledging them, and they aren't really interested, they don't respond, they decide that they aren't going to be involved in the business or they're not going to become a customer, they come back later because of how you made them feel. And
Very
even
good.
if in that conversation it doesn't turn into anything at the time, when we make people feel that, when they understand that we care for them, when they understand that we are interested in them and what will help them, then they will remember that down the road when a couple years later they're ready to make a change, whether it's a change in their career or a change in their health. They will remember that. And I've been in this business for a long time, and numerous times I've had a long conversation with someone and nothing happened. And then year, 2 years, 3 years later, they become a teammate or a great customer because of that. And so I think that that's really important, that we're looking at the long-term picture of how we make people feel. And I think that all these things that we're saying about not being salesy, about not having a sales pitch and sharing experiences is also really important in how we present ourselves on Facebook, in our posts, because our posts that we put on our own walls they are marketing, but doing it in such a way that we are sharing stories, that we are relating with people, and we are reaching to people that make them ask us questions. Again, I saw you post that thing about your non-toxic clean house. I love having a clean house, but I get such a headache. Do you not get that? It can start a conversation, and so we want to put things on Facebook that do. I'm hearing an echo. Sorry. That are sharing stories, that are sharing those experiences, that can start those kind of conversations with people. So these are a couple really great examples that people have shared, and one of them is Crystal's non-toxic clean kitchen.
And it's so clean. It's sparkly. I love it.
Yeah.
And I like her mixer. All right. So let's talk about action steps. Set up your launch event. If you have not kind of announced to the world that you're doing this great, beautiful thing called Shaklee, you want to do that. You can do a Facebook event, you can do an in-home event, you can do both, which I recommend. It's just a good way to say, hey, I just started this new business. I'd love for you to come and just check it out. It'll be so much fun. I'm really excited to get rolling, right? So set up a launch event. And then follow up with those guests. So this is the most beautiful part about scheduling something is now the conversations are going. And if people can come or not, that's not really as much as the important part is you talking to them and using these communication skills and asking them if they would like to check some things out, right? Continue to make contacts from your list that you've been making with your great new skill sets here. Share your excitement for your new business. I love these posts that I see where someone gets their gold pack and they open it and they take a picture and they put it on Facebook and said, oh my gosh, it's here. It's like Christmas. It's just very fun and real and exciting. So that's a nice way to just kind of say, hey, look at what I got. I'm so excited, and the curiosity factor starts to go up. And that's part of the Facebook brilliance is we want to light those curiosity fires, right? Attend business presentations, training events, register for global conference. All of these are so key to your success. Why not just get it done? So if you don't have any, big local events, but plug into trainings like these, find some archives, get involved in the weekly calls that Shaklee does on Mondays, whatever, the wellness webinars, all of that stuff is good. There's a concept called 3 and 10, do it again. It actually is a very good concept. We want you to be thinking about assembling your team, and that means you really do want to find 3 business partners to join you, and you'll do that through sharing what you're doing, right? So, and then you're going to assemble your member base, your consumer base. So that's that concept. So you're sharing with people, you're getting members, you're finding people to build on your team with you, and it's great fun. So it is really important in the beginning of your business that you have weekly connections with your upline. It is essential. It's actually quite natural to be talking to them almost daily, sometimes several times a day, but you want to have a designated time where you can think and focus and really talk with them about what your last week looked like and what your next week is going to look like and what is going on in your business, and then continue working through your business leader guide if you're using it, and just keep your head in the game. That's what I say. Get engaged, keep your head in the game, and you are going to look back in 3, 6 months, a year, and say, look what I did. It's so awesome.
Yes, Lisa. And just to tag on to that, we want to practice those 3 things we talked about. So that was asking questions and listening well, acknowledging people, and then sharing the reasons why you are contacting them. So practice that with your husband, practice it with your kids. You can practice it with anybody. Then we want to practice asking for permission. Ashley had so many great examples today. And what I love about that is it turns anything into a warm contact because they've said yes, they want something. And then they're expecting you to send whatever it is, or to tell you, for you to tell them about whatever you were talking about. So I love warm contacts. That's what I want, and that's actually the only thing I want to do. And the ability to be able to do that is by always asking permission. So even with referrals, you can ask your referring member, can you ask them if it's okay if I send them some information, and then I'll give them a phone call in a couple of days. Then it's always warm, always warm. And then just practice some of the dialogues things here. And I agree with Lisa. I think it's really good if you are nervous to practice these things in front of the mirror. And even if you're going to talk to people on the phone, you want to see what do you look like? Do you look happy? Do you look, just practice all those things. And then I love this last quote. I've never seen this before, but it's so great. So many people believe in you. Make sure you are one of them. So it's super sweet.
There it is.
Yes, there we go.
Thank you, ladies, today.
Yes, great job, everyone.
We had a feeling we might go over on this one. This was jam-packed, but this is the essence of our business, what we're talking about today. Joe, I know there are a lot of comments and questions. There's one I want to direct to Ashley that she mentioned. It came from Yvonne when she said, what do you do when you were overzealous in the past and had some encounters that weren't positive? Is there any way to recover? And do you want to talk about that, Ashley? I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? This is one of those times when you're probably spending a little bit of time thinking, what do I do? How do I say it? That's when I'm going to say, stop, quiet your mind, quiet your thoughts, and be honest. Tell them that. Say to them, oh my goodness, looking back, I realized I kind of attacked you with Shaklee, and I was just so excited. I couldn't help myself. And the more I thought about it, I thought I really didn't give you the best image that I wanted to give you for Shaklee. Would it be okay if we started over? Just be honest. As honest as you can be, that's going to be the thing that brings those guards down and allows that person to go, oh my gosh, which you're probably going to be surprised. They're probably going to say, of course you can. I'd love to hear more. But, just tell them the truth, whether it's, I said too much or I didn't say enough, or, just like I told Michelle Parrott, I just haven't done the follow-up that I really want to do for my business. Can I start over with you? And just ask their permission. Hopefully that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that question. Would it be okay if we start over? That can work in so many situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even with your husbands.
Yes. and there was also a question, Ashley, about sending postcards and permission marketing.
Yeah. So I have a method when I get a new person to sign up, and we're going to do a whole follow-up webinar, so nobody stress out. But I do, at the beginning when somebody signs up as a customer, I do ask permission to send them stuff along the way. So I have a contact within 5 days, contact within 15 days, contact at 25, and at that 25-day mark, I will say, I was just curious, would it be okay if I sent you a postcard from time to time, a deal from time to time, whatever it is that you do in your business, a newsletter? I do. I don't add people to my newsletter list unless I've asked for permission. So you do ask permission for those things. Typically, I ask far in advance. Over time, would it be okay if from time to time I sent you something? And the reason why you do this is because then they're actually going to look at it. The reason why you say, would it be okay if I called you in 5 days to make sure you got your order, is because then they're going to answer your call. Okay, these are the things that instead of thinking, oh gosh, Ashley, I already bought something from you, stop bothering me. Instead, they know why you're sending it. They know why you're calling. So absolutely, I mean it to the core. I do not send a single thing without permission.
I love that. It's excellent. We'll delve into that one more in the future. We're going to be talking about servicing customers. Joe, any other comments or questions?
Maybe just quickly, here's one about someone who's just moved, I think, from the East Coast to the West Coast. They don't know anyone. They're just starting their business. Do we have any tips to help them meet people?
We have moved some with our business, and I think one of the first things is keep reaching out to the people that you just left behind. There's lots of ways that we can do this business at a distance, and so it's perfectly able to do that. And then in your new location, just start doing things that you personally enjoy, and because you do Shaklee and use Shaklee, it will come up. You put these communication techniques into play, and you're going to start learning what their needs are. And so I say just jump in. And if you have kids, if they have kids activities, or if you don't have kids, just do things that you like, hiking, or we just moved here a couple of years ago to the Quad Cities, and they have a women's walking club that meets at different places in the Quad Cities, and it's been so fun just to meet different people, and you always have conversations that come up.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, as many know, I live in an RV, and so I change where I'm at every couple of weeks. And so at first when I went off on this adventure, I was really scared of that community piece that I would be missing. And I thought, gosh, I'm going to have to get really creative. And that's where I learned a lot of my techniques about just being a human, because I realized it wasn't about creativity. It was about being the kind of human that Dr. Shaklee, as Katie had mentioned, Dr. Shaklee had founded Shaklee on, was relationships. And so I actually think that I sort of sometimes have an upper hand because I'm constantly new to places, because I always get to use the phrase, hey, I'm new here and I'm looking for some people to connect with. Can I connect with you? And so I actually feel like you get an upper hand when you always have a reason to talk to anybody, because you don't know anybody. And plus then I always like, at least now this is if you live in an RV or if you go somewhere you're never going to go again, I always take the phrase, well, then I'll never see you again if you're not nice to me.
Yeah, so what, right? It's all practice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else, Joe, that...
Just where these are archived. The Thursday morning webinars are archived generally a week or so later at bobsfiles.net, and then more right in probably within 2 days or so at betterfuturestartstoday.com, which is a sister website to betterhealthin31days.com. And you get both websites for a paid subscription to the Better Health in 31 Days.
And you get podcasts there, which in today's world are a good idea. So and Chris now he edits them and to make it and then posts it and so it's and maintains that's where they do the Learn and Earn programs too. We'll talk about that more in the future, but if you're not familiar with that, you may want to explore that. That's been pretty effective for most of us in our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to close. I wanted to mention this was so excellent today, and I was in the midst of working on the slides all this week when I had a 3-way call with one of our newer leaders, and she had a customer who she didn't know real well. And the customer had enormous number of health issues. She was only 29 years old. She was was significantly overweight and obese. She had 10% function of her gallbladder, and they were really trying to schedule her for gallbladder surgery to remove it. She had a million other health issues, and so this woman Alyssa set up this 3-way call. And it was clear to me in the beginning as I began asking questions, and we're going to do, I'm telling you this is an entree to what we're doing next week, is going to be about nutritional consultations, about taking what all of our leaders shared today about communication skills and applying it to how we help people to start on a nutrition program, and the questions that we ask and how we build a relationship in the process. So as I was asking, Nikki was her name, these questions, I was very aware of that she was skeptical. I could tell, by the way she was responding. So after I made a list of her symptoms, which I asked her for her benefit as well as mine, by the way. You will see next week when we ask the questions. It's the questions that we ask, even today you could see, they guide people's thinking. And so before I mentioned a Shaklee product, I simply, took the symptoms that she had, and I explained to her a little bit about why I thought she was having those symptoms. And what happened then that I'd never done before, but I think it was because I was so grounded in what we were talking about today, I stopped and I said to her, before I go any further, let me ask you, how is this feeling for you? Because she'd been in this medical world for 15 years and she was only 29 years old. And what she said to me is, she said, I'm skeptical. And she said, I'm skeptical about people telling me things when they're selling things. Now, I loved her honesty about that. And I also appreciated that somehow I had created a safe enough spot that she could say that to me, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that was very useful information. I could have just bowled on through like I normally do, but I stopped and I asked, and I said to her, you know what? I get it. I understand. You've had a lot of stuff coming at you. I said, does the concept of this make sense to you? Because the idea of treating the cause and not just the symptoms. And I said, so we can just stop here if you want, and you can just think about this, and then I'm happy to speak with you further. She said, no, I'd like you to go on. That's about permission marketing. Do you see how it fits into almost every interaction that we have with people, and it makes us respectful of their time, respectful of their skepticism, of their concerns, of their questions. And, in the past, Joe, I'm thinking, we used to do sessions about handling objections as kind of a classic sales term. And, and we would say, if they say this, then you say that. If they say, is this multi-level marketing, and you say, it was canned, and it wasn't that the responses were bad. It was that if you take what Ashley was talking about with permission marketing, you see that when people have concerns, when they are skeptical, you know what? I was like that too. I really understand that. And what I used to do when I first started is I always made them wrong. If they were using another vitamin, I'd say, well, that
you don't want to use that.
Yeah, I was always making them wrong. And so learning how to validate people, those steps that she walked us through are so lovely and they're so easy, but they're also, you know what, we do it with our relatives. We're making our relatives wrong all the time, and so it's just a beautiful way to relate to people. So I just want to thank all of our training team today. These were wonderful examples and wonderful concepts for us, and we'll be applying them again next week when we start talking about putting nutrition programs together for people. Anything else, Joe?
I think that does it. Just everyone have a great week, and remember, communication skills, we get better the more we practice.
So go talk to a lot of people.
Go talk to somebody.
Go talk to somebody. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. So, Becky, whip us through those wellness webinars, and then I want to get right to Michelle.
You bet. So our Monday night webinars are just such a great way for us to be able to share information with our people, but also just for education for us. And so this last Monday was a business one that will be archived that Gary Burke spoke. And then this next one is going to be Healthy Heart with Rusty Oast. And I've had the privilege of being able to see some of his story, and it is just remarkable. You won't want to miss that.
Story.
Very, very much so. Then on the next week, we've got Rebecca Colby's husband, David, is going to be sharing with us about supplements in the marketplace. Our own Pam Carey will be on talking about stress and adrenal fatigue. And then I love this edition of Walking Through the Product Guide. That's going to be a great one for not only our business people, but also brand new people that are looking at the business or our customers as well. Then we've got a great lineup for March. Kristen's going to share her story about the business, nutritional support for cancer. I'm thrilled to have the Lyme's disease on there for March 21st. I feel like that's becoming more and more of just a more prevalent issue. And then again, a walk through the product guide. So it's going to be a great lineup for this month and next.
Right. Excellent.
Great. So, Michelle, please get started. And let me just set this up. Katie's having trouble getting on, so that's why I'm going to go in a minute and help her. I just want to say what we've been doing in pre-calls is sharing stories from people who have had exceptional growth over the last 100 days, and Michelle Parrott was one of them. She is living down in Florida. She began building her business in England on a military base, and we wanted you to hear, first of all, what she accomplished, but then the lessons that she learned so that we can understand how to take what she's been doing and what she's been learning and apply it to our next 100 days for our goals. Okay, let's turn it over to you, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yay.
Hi. How are you guys doing?
Good. Happy you're on.
Thanks. I'm excited. I haven't been on in a while. Anyway, so Barb just kind of wanted me to share my 100-day plan. And I'd actually shared this with Barb and Roger Barnett and Heather because I wanted to be more accountable. And so when I started, Barb said I was in England, and I have a husband that was not on board. I know a lot of people can relate to that. He saw me you can see, he saw me putting so much effort in. I mean, I was constantly just trying, and I just wasn't where I wanted to be. And then I attended Global, and I was blown away. The first day I was like, okay, what's the big hype? And then I got it. I totally got it. And I was super excited, and it was like a fire was lit under my butt, and I just went for it. And my husband was able to get a brand new car this December, and when he came home, he was like, well, I guess Shackley isn't so bad. And he is even referred to the car as his Shackley car. So
That's awesome.
Yes. So on to my goals for the next 100 days. I'm going to be a senior coordinator by April. My goal is to help my 2 directors increase their rank to senior director. So I'm trying to help them find that one director that's really going to keep their legs strong. And they're doing really awesome with that. I plan to host 3 in-home events. I'm new to the area, and so that is a goal of mine, to just get to know more women in the community. And Harper and I actually started a devotion group on Facebook for all Shaklee women that just want to be encouraged in our businesses and in our lives, and really just have somewhere to go for prayer and just kind of that spiritual, I guess, guidance and community. So that's something that's been really big, like a big goal of mine for this year. And I also would like to double my check very soon. So, because that was like a stipulation of Jesse and I. In order for me to go to global, I had to double my check, and I am so close. So close. So that is the next thing on my to-do list.
Yay, that's a good one.
Great goals.
Oh, here it is. I didn't see it on there. Some things that really I have learned and that I'm always sharing with my girls and just other people from different teams is that connecting and, it says servicing your customers is such a big deal. I did not do that great of a job when I first started. And I think when you're new, you're trying to learn everything, you're just overwhelmed, with the whole Shaklee life. And so I've gone back. I actually spoke with Ashley McDonald, and she gave me just a really great, she gave me a really great thing to say to someone, and just basically said, why don't you tell them, I'm so sorry. I really value customer service, and I feel like I didn't do a good job with that when you started, and I would really like to do that again. And so, do you hear that knocking? I'm sorry. I locked my kids out of the room so I could knock.
We all understand.
So I did that. I went through the last 2 weeks of the month and sent texts, emails, messages, and I've actually had a handful of customers place an order, and they hadn't placed in over a year. So that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I found is a really big deal with so many different wellness companies out there trying to provide products that are not at the standards that Shaklee has, is ensuring that my customers truly understand the Shaklee difference. And I know it sounds like when I first heard it, I thought it was a little bit blown out of proportion, but what we provide is something that these other companies do not provide. And how we ensure the safety of our products, how we ensure that everything is met to these high standards is so, so important that they understand that. So if you don't know if your customers get that, I highly suggest you really kind of drive that home. And then the last, obviously, is you need to have patience. Think about your story. Think about how long it took you to get into Shaklee and to really trust who we are and what we do, and kind of give that grace to your customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I've kind of learned.
Michelle, these are great. And, I don't care how long you're in Shaklee. We're always learning. And these are wonderful insights that you have gained. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I want to whip over to one more of your colleagues, and that is Stephanie Bruce, who also had a tremendous fall, also qualified for Chairman's Retreat. But the two of you actually are so creative about promotions on Facebook and with your customers. And so we've asked Stephanie if she would pop in real quick and tell us a little bit about this idea that she had and how that is working. Good morning, Steph.
Hi, good morning. As you can see here, the graphic that's on the screen, I created a winter wellness for kids kit, and what I did was I created that in PicMonkey.com, which is PicMonkey.com. It's super easy to create graphics there, so everybody can create their own graphics. And what I did was I included products that would be really great for kids during the winter, especially because pretty much everywhere it's been snowing and kids are outside playing, and unfortunately they are getting sick. So I posted the amount per day it costs to use these products, and to just showcase how little it really is. So because some people really are under the impression that Shaklee is so expensive. So anyway, I put together this kit, and then for all of the members of my entire downline, so even for my director, my other distributors, I offered free shipping if their customer purchased this entire kit. While we didn't have a huge amount of sales for the entire kit, it did spur a lot of new sales and re-engaging with a lot of our old customers. For me specifically, I found out one of my old customers who hadn't ordered in a couple months was actually expecting her fourth baby. So she was very interested then in learning more about products for pregnancy. So it was a great promotion that led to a lot of other sales, if not the whole entire kit. So
excellent, Stephanie. Thank you for sharing that one. And we'll bring ideas into the pre-call every week that are helping people to just connect with people either around those products or finding other needs by virtue of speaking, giving us a reason to speak to our customers. So we're going to get started with, and we give some kind of a inspirational quote. Here's the one for today. Until further notice, celebrate everything.
Yay. Awesome.
And with that, Lisa, give us our countdown.